Heather, would you believe? I just feel like there's so much more to talk about.
Yeah, always.
Folks, welcome back and happy Halloween. We are recording this on Halloween. Heather and I just had about like a 2-hour catch up, just like a quick little 2-hour catch up. And folks, would you believe I'm not tired yet?
Me neither.
That must be that Scorpio energy, the Scorpio drive, the never giving up, the relentless Scorpio,
the caring about your close ones, the real ones,
the real and listeners, y'all are some of our realest ones. And we just thanks for being here. This is your host. Well, this is Miranda speaking. I was about to introduce you, but I said it in a way that was like, I can't. Let's flip, Heather. Our voices sound exactly the same. They'll never know. Folks, we got Heather Cunningham on the sticks. Hi. A Halloween miracle. It really feels extra Scorpio and extra, like just an extra Scorpio episode now that we're here on Halloween. And it's me, Miranda, asking all the questions, getting down to the bottom of the layers. That is Scorpio and that is astrology. What is going on? Why am I bullshitting around the point? Is that Scorpio, Heather? Just kidding.
Interesting. I feel like a lot of Scorpios would say that they don't do that, but at the same time,
yeah,
they're always pushing shit away.
No, yeah, there's definitely. Today's Halloween, but this past weekend was definitely like a Hallow weekend. So and it's Scorpio and it feels very extra charged and we're really in it. It's it's just, you can't make this shit up, can you? The darkest, deepest sign during the first moments the sun is barely out anymore, yada yada. It's just, we're really in it.
There's a chill in the air.
There is. Yeah. Heather, yes. Not to put you on the spot, but
go ahead.
We just had this huge lunar eclipse. Right? That was officially kind of like Friday, Saturday.
Yeah.
Saturday. We have this big old lunar eclipse. Remind me and the folks again of not only the energy we just experienced and we're in the peak of, but also sort of like what that means moving forward, or like, I guess sort of say I would say we're still sort of in that lunar eclipse energy. I know it's fizzling out a little bit, but that's like the thing about these like moons, right? It's like we stay in that energy a little bit. It's a little quicker. The moon phases are a little faster than a lot of things that move in the sky. But like, is that the energy from this weekend? Was it that lunar eclipse?
I think so. I think
that I completely forgot about.
It's yeah, I think I felt it. I feel like so it was a Taurus lunar eclipse.
That's right.
And it was a full moon, right? So whenever it's a full moon, it's the sun was in Scorpio, the moon was in Scorpio's opposite, Taurus. And it's that marked the last eclipse of the not the agriculture, the weather year, for lack of, I need to like find the correct,
like the calendar year.
The calendar year. There you go.
Yes. Not the astrological calendar, obviously.
Right.
Because as we know, folks, that starts or that ends with Pisces is like the
final
is like the December of astrology. And then Aries is January.
The start.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. And what's interesting, though, is that Jupiter and Uranus, which are very slow moving planets, it takes Jupiter 12 years to circle around the whole zodiac. I want to say it takes Uranus like 25-ish. So we have these two slow planets that have been hanging out in Taurus this year. And they were like a part of this lunar eclipse. And even this week, like, yes, I think that the full moons and especially the eclipses kind of linger energetically, but especially because Jupiter and Uranus are in Taurus and have been this whole year. So we've already been feeling kind of Taurus themes in a general way all year. And it's still in opposition to the sun. Actually, Jupiter is in opposition to the sun exactly this coming Friday. So it really is like this whole year kind of deals with Taurus versus Scorpio themes, but especially this month.
Right. And then this past weekend was like the
it was a big punch of it.
Was the cold open.
Like, yeah.
If I may.
Yeah. I feel
sorry.
It's so funny. Sometimes like it just like bounces right off of me.
But also I realized I went, if I may, in a way that I was going to continue. And I think you were like,
oh,
and I was like, no, I've got nothing to say, actually, if I may not. Go on, Heather. Sorry.
Oh my God, that's funny. I was just going to say, like, all the astrologers are saying Scorpio season is when you go through some sort of transformation, big or small. Like, it might not be an outward transformation as much as like an inner psychological one. And if you are a Scorpio or have Scorpio placements, obviously that will be a little bit more dramatic and felt more deeply. But that this is the season to like let something die and something else to be reborn. And yeah, I don't know. Scorpio season's only just started, but I do like feel that sort of like I've been feeling like heaviness about things, and then I like feel it and I come out of it and I'm like, wait, I have drive to do something about this.
Yeah. It's not just like and again, I know I relate a lot to Pisces on this podcast because I selfishly am one. And then whenever we're in a water shift, I'm always like, I'm nihilist. But I do I personally have Scorpio placements. A lot of our generation personally has Scorpio placements.
And people our age specifically, like going through their Saturn return right now. Yeah.
Yes. I guess not our whole generation, but yes.
Well, no, sorry. Pluto.
No, please.
Is the whole generation that spends 10 years in Scorpio. So that's like people.
Okay.
In our 10 year, but then Jupiter for people in our like tighter age range.
Yes.
That changes sign every like 2 years. So us specifically who are like our age have Jupiter and
coming up
Pluto,
into
a
our
double
30s.
whammy. Yeah, exactly.
As we literally enter 30 and we're dealing with our Saturn return.
Yeah.
And it's so funny. Just I want to do a little side tangent, Heather, because I just reminded myself that I sent you a TikTok that I loved and really related with, where it's like, oh, are we finally getting what we've been talking about in astrology forever? Where it's like, I forget the exact, like I can literally just check my text, but it's way more fun to spark notes it and hopefully get something wrong. And then it gives Alex an excuse to correct me. Shouts out to Alex Nightingale. But so it's just my way to keep her in my web. But no, what I sent you was all about how like science now is saying 30s is like the new 18. And it's like, yeah, well, first of all, 18 is so made up. That's a societal number that we just chose one day to say that's adulthood, which is a joke. And it's sickening that like you can go to war, but you can't have a fucking beer. 18 is such a weird thing.
It's really,
you can like vote, but you can't drink. How can you call yourself an adult?
Psychologically, you're a baby.
You're a baby. An infant newborn. Yes, literally. Truly. And then it was the whole TikTok was breaking down this article that was like, now it is more like real, like literally the brain, the like heart, body, mind, soul, and brain of like people going into the 30s is like, that is actually like, that's like technically where the 18 line should be if we want to get technical with it. And it was just a beautiful TikTok that was like, we've been talking about this. This is like the age range and where you get in right around your Saturn return, which is supposed to be sort of this like returning from all the lessons and things that we gather and learn in this childhood is just a much deeper, bigger layered range than what it gets cracked up to be in our society. And I think we've known this for a long time, right? People can always know that like, yeah, I'm technically 18. Even when I was 18, I'm like, I'm a kid. I just learned how to drive like a year and a half ago, like barely 2 years ago. And so right, even when you're 18, I think you're like, why do I still feel like I'm in high school? Because you are. You're still like in high school. Anyways, it was just it was so fun. And I sent it to Heather because it was like, I just love that it was, the whole point was breaking it down. Like what this article is literally talking about is your Saturn return. It was just really fascinating. Without saying that, right?
Right.
But anyways, yeah. So I know a lot of our generation and then our age range, especially those going through like their Saturn return, and our generation as a whole, big in the Scorpio placements, which I do just obviously think plays such a major role with our generation, as we've seen. And now we're really starting to see as like we're hitting Saturn return, and just like this past decade alone is in movement. And the Scorpio themes that it feels like our generation fights with a lot. Or deals with. But I find it so interesting, Heather. I'm so sorry I'm keep putting you on the spot like this. But in terms, if you had to really compare like Scorpio and Taurus, because like, again, like we said, every sign has this soul sign that's on a similar, or that's like sharing the same astrological themes. However, they're two usually completely different elements in the way they go about it. Their lineup in the calendar, we see how different they are, even though sharing the same themes. When it comes to Taurus and Scorpio, like is there a, like, I guess besides one's water and one's earth, do we really see like on paper their differen's?
I love
asking,
this conversation.
Okay, good. That's what I want to say. And also, I just, for context, IB brought this up because a very good Scorpio friend of mine the other day said that she stays fighting with Taurans, or like doesn't get, and I remember I thought that was kind of funny, because I was like, but X, Y, and Z are all Taurans. And like, cause I know some close friends of hers that are, and she was like, oh, well, and I'm like, yeah, you're not just also close with those Taurans. You have an extra soft space in your heart for those Taurans. So I found it funny that at first she was like, Taurus is like, that sign is so hard for me. And I'm like, that's what I would say about Virgo, which is my
opposite.
As well. But then once I pointed out to her, I'm like, these people in your life are Taurans. It was kind of funny watching her be like, I love them. So I thought that was very Scorpio.
Is funny.
Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
No,
please.
They are very similar, but different at the same time. But I've been thinking about this a lot too, and I'm going to try my best. So like Taurus is the second sign of the zodiac. So it's like pretty rudimentary, which isn't a bad thing, but it's just very like, it's the first earth sign, only the second sign of the entire zodiac. So it's very about like and it's Venus ruled. So it's like, what do I like? What am I attracted to? And how do I build my life based on my values, like in an earthy, practical way that makes me feel good. So it's like very Venusian, and it's about beauty and what makes you feel good and what you're attracted to, but in an earth sense.
And for the sake of that, like deeper connection to it all, it sounds like what you were saying, like not, I think I can get how that could sound like a surface level thing, but because of the fact is all due to like the moral compass. And
they
like
are. I think they have really strong ethics and morals and values, because like on paper, it could look like a sign that's like materialistic, they get a reputation for, or like Taurus just wants to like sit in bed and eat bonbons. It's very like Marie Antoinette. But I think that like Taurans, when they like a physical thing, they really like it and see this deeper value in it. And like, so many talented artists are Taurans because they have that like strong sense of not only aestheticism and like what's beautiful, but also like a strong sense of like I get why this is good, because like the sense morally. Of quality and it bleeds into like moral values, and
that's interesting.
They have a really strong sense of like, this is what matters to me, this doesn't matter, like this is important, this is not. And Scorpio is similar in that way, I would say. But Scorpio is the 8th sign of the zodiac. It's a relationship sign. And it's also, I think, very particular, also very stubborn, but it's like deep, and it's water, and it's like, who do I want to share energy with in a deep way? And I don't know, both signs deal with possessions and values, but like with Scorpio, it's more about the mysterious undercurrents of life, like the way money gives you power, the way having a successful job. I feel like I'm rambling, but
no. I also was like, I know that this is putting you on the spot in a way, but that's like, I guess my overall question too, it lit me up that you were excited for that question, or that you do like those topics.
And I am excited, and then it's hard to describe, but I hopefully you're getting.
Yes, I wanted to also make a point too, because it's such a layered thing. But I guess like it was just so interesting to hear my Scorpio friend, sort of say that and feel that way, because that's sort of a similar, it's almost like I feel like a lot of these soul signs almost they're like siblings. Like there's a weird relationship there that's a little love and hate. And I think what's so funny is like there's aspects about Virgo, not that I hate such a strong word, or but that I'm kind of like,
it's doesn't connect with your
my Pisces, right? But then it's funny because it's like it's we are like, it's the same message, it's just rooted, it manifests differently in the way the elements of the signs are. And then it's like, after being around a Virgo for a while, that I've maybe been like, oh my God, X, Y, and Z about them is just so different from me. After being around them for a while, I'm like, oh my God, we're the same. Having a moment of like, the things I don't like is because they're things I say within myself. I don't know. It's kind of like I feel like all these soul astrological signs really are like, they're like twin flames, so to speak. I don't want to, I know that not all of them are fire elements, but like there's like there is like a sibling element. And it's like, that was so funny talking to my Scorpio friend and be like, X, Y, and Z are Taurans, right? And you love them. And like watching her be like, ah, shit. And like, so I think like anytime you're maybe not getting, like another sign isn't always getting along, if anything, to me, I'm just like, I think y'all are feeling where you're two alike, and it's just
right, or like
elements. So you're not, because you're fighting for the same thing, or you're,
no. The overall theme is the same, so there is a lot in common. And when you think about how everything in life is a spectrum, and astrology is no different, and like it's very in line with Scorpio season to talk about like your shadow self, or the part of you that reject is actually a very prominent part of you that you're maybe not bringing to light. Like I think Taurus and Scorpio and all the oppositions have that.
No, it's really, it's fascinating. I thought you explained it beautifully, Heather, is my whole point.
Yeah, it's like Taurus
thing.
feels security with like accumulating earthy values, and it's like Scorpio feels security over accumulating like mysterious power dynamic value. Or like I don't know, like
Scorpio is just a big old softy at heart.
It really
That's why they're so protective. And like,
I
feel like if a lot of people, or a lot of the, again, we on this podcast don't like to, what am I trying to say?
Generalize?
Yes. Thank you, Heather. But like in a way that is like, there are themes to things. And I think the bad rep Scorpio gets is that like they're every sign gets a bad, silly rep.
Yeah,
There's
they
a very
have
surface level understanding that naturally gets a bad rep, right? Like we've talked about this before with Gemini. They have a two-faced rep. That's a very undeserving. Actually, if we look at that sign deeper, this is what people are like getting, but here's what it really means, right? And I think Scorpio can kind of, their negative side to the astrological world, right? Or like what people sort of joke about is a red flag with Scorpio, is like how secretive and like private they are. And like that like, similar to Cancer, how they can have sort of maybe like an outer shell. But I think unlike Cancer, Scorpio's a little more, has colder tendencies. They're deep crabs. They can hop in the water. They can get on the shore. They're a little more versatile, right?
Scorpions are cold-blooded creatures.
They're really in the depths of that ocean, right? Pisces, she's not coming on land, but she'll jump out. She'll give you a little flip. Do a little flip in the air for you. She'll let you catch her, but on a hook.
Right. Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, it is just like where Scorpio is like, yeah, well, the Phoenix thing, right? That comes from a place of like, of like bottom. That comes from a place of like, let it all burn.
Right. Yeah.
And see who's worthy once I go there. Like, who's still willing to, I feel like Scorpio is kind of, there's like a test almost with Scorpio a little bit. And it's because they're so soft. It's because they feel things so deep. You can't just come down and swimming unless you can deal with that level of chill. And they've really got to, it takes a lot for them to emerge from the depths in a way. And it's like, as I'm older, it's so clearly, I'm like, oh, they're so, the poor precious Scorpio. They're just scared.
Yeah,
they're deep and dark and mysterious because like, trying to see who's willing to come down to the depths with them,
I know. And they're fiercely loyal, just like Taurus and Scorpio, like the loyalist signs in the zodiac. Like and I think it is attributed to like how much when they value something, they fucking value it.
Yes.
But
I agree.
But also, I love thinking about the scorpion being like a cold-blooded, I think it's a reptile. And how it's like,
you're right.
But then its ruling planet is Pluto, the farthest planet from the sun that is like
so cold,
rejected. Is it even a planet? It's
cold.
It's icy. It's all the way at the end. And it's Scorpio's ruling planet. And
Scorpio's like, that's my bitch.
Yeah.
No, I
forget where I was going with this, but there's
Scorpios own that element. It's not like something. What I love about the sign is that they are that and they own it. Or the energy itself, not even people as the sign, but Scorpio's energy is just like, yeah, my planet's Pluto. That's cold. I'm a deep, dark, watery bitch. That's cold. Like I love that. Scorpio is very like, welcome to the dark side. We have coffee, or like it is very like it's not like a shameful thing. And again, I kind of think this a little bit with all the water signs, that everyone could tap into them a little more. But it is just, I love that Scorpio is just like, I'm a deep dark energy, and that's me. Like there's no apologies for that. Very similar to Taurus. Like they're both, even though they're completely different elements, they're both kind of like, this is who I am, in a way that as a Pisces I of course envy. But
there's a strong identity sense with both of them.
And a sense of like owning it, and no shame to needing to like change, which like out of all I feel like water does have a rep of going a little bit more with the flow, but I love that Scorpio's like, only if the flow is like morally and like logistic, or like morally good. It feels like Scorpio's also like,
it's the fixed water sign.
Yeah. That there is a go with the flow, but it's like, as long as the current's going in my favor. Like, but again, in a way that I like, because the Scorpio's like, I'm not just going to hop in a current that's not taking me down a place that makes sense or that I don't vibe with. Whereas Pisces is like, well, I'm kind of in the current. Well, I kind of took a wrong turn and now I'm just down here. I do. And this is why, again, we talked about this last episode. I loved Heather. You talking about how Scorpio technically kind of has the Scorpio, and the scorpion symbol is what really has like continued in our astrological world and understandings. But there's a huge whole underbelly and context to Scorpio of them being a phoenix and like this rising from the ashes thing. And you can't let it all burn if you've got doubts, and you can't let it all burn if you don't own it. And like I really love that about this energy, this time, Scorpio as a whole. I feel like as a water sign, the one thing it's very sure and like comfortable with is like going to the depths that people are uncomfortable with going to. I think it's like a power. It really feels like a superpower.
No, I admire them.
That's what this energy's for, y'all. Even if you don't consider yourself a watery bitch, for example. I cannot relate, but like I love, this is a time, it feels like, to get introspective, to get cozy with your demons. This is not a time to shy away from that shit. It is a time to go where it's uncomfortable and cold.
Yes,
and like,
absolutely.
Because the baby, that's what this time is. And like, and yeah, I really love that. And it's also in that Taurus way too, of like, we can't move forward and get towards like the goodness of things and what we want and stay loyal to who we are if we don't let the shit that's not serving us burn. I really love that both Taurus and Scorpio, I feel like they are very sure. It's very sure of yourself energy.
They have so much conviction and so much like, Scorpio has that intense drive of like, I know in my soul, this is what I want, and I'm going to like give it my all to like get there. And Taurus is the same. And I think you kind of have to be willing to like let it all die and burn in order to like have that level of intense conviction.
Yeah. And you just can't own that energy can't be owned if you have your doubts or you're unsure or you're shamed out of feeling your shit. And I love that Scorpio isn't like a water sign that's afraid to be a water sign. It's like very, I'm like, that's my element. Even though I'm not technically a Scorpio, I'm still like, I'm proud of that element. And the Phoenix thing, still, I love that analogy. And I love for so many people who are like, I actually don't vibe with the Scorpio thing. We're a Phoenix. Like that is like, again, it's the fire of the waters. And it's so funny because I think I used to be like, no, Pisces is, but no. With all like the context and the layers, I'm like, oh, I really understand what people mean by that now. That Scorpio is the fire of the water.
And before Pluto ruled before Pluto was discovered, Mars was a co-ruler of Scorpio, which is a
fire.
Yeah.
Literally fireball of a planet.
So, yeah.
Basically the sun or something, I hear. Anyway, Heather, with that, shall we dive on in?
Let's.
Some deep ones today, Heather. Some deep, incredible at what they do Scorpios we have today. I'm very excited. Let's not waste any more time. This first Scorpio, this is a sad one. And it's Scorpio season, so it's like on par of deep shit. Not that Scorpio means everything has to be dark and heavy, of course, but it is a deep thing. But
no, it is. It's an awareness of darkness. Yeah.
But our first birth chart today, folks, we're gonna do David Schwimmer, which comes right on the tails of the passing of Matthew Perry, who passed away during the lunar eclipse, or like that was I believe they found him on Saturday. So geez, just so sad. Truly a very sad. I was telling Heather folks before we started recording the podcast, I don't think I've ever cried at a celebrity's death. Even like, Robin Williams was also very like someone who brought so much happiness, like a very funny comedian, and that was really shocking and sad. But I was getting ready for a Halloween party, and my boyfriend's like, dude, Matthew Perry he's dead. He died. And I was like, I immediately, like, all the makeup I just did was a waste. I had to like stop and have a cry. It really took me by surprise. It's just sad. And he's been battling. He's had his battle with addiction for a really long time. And it was just sad. And it's like, truly, all these quotes are like, we'll never watch Friends. Like, Friends will kind of never be the same. And I was just like, Friends is a show I have on all the time. It's one of the many reasons I love David Schwimmer and why I'm so excited to cover him. But yeah, just wanted to say a little like,
I know.
Just words. Love Matthew Perry. And
it feels
it's really
like we grew up with all of them. It's really
right. And what's extra kind of sad is that I want to make this point and then I want to move on, of course, Heather, but like he brings up, he's like, when I die, I know that Friends is going to be what's talked about. Like, I know that's my legacy. I know that's what I'm known for, what I love for. And I love what Friends has done for me and my life as far as careers and a life goes. But also he's like, if there is anything I could really be remembered for, I really want it to be all the people I've helped who are also battling addiction. And he really became such a huge like advocate. And like, I don't know if he was technically a sponsor, but I know that there's a whole, like, there's like a rehab center that he, I think is in his name, that he owns and started, for men getting sober and fighting addiction. And, so I just wanted to point that out too, that like at the end of his life, or, even when he was like, I know that when I die, Friends will be the thing that is discussed, but like that, like, Friends also gave me this ability to be able to help people. And this is the work that I'm just like really proud of. And like, and he talks about too, like, just even looking back on Friends, he can tell what he's addicted to based on, like, I think there's a lot of memories he doesn't have from filming because of his addiction, but like he can tell basically what he's addicted to. And he's like, when I'm really skinny, it's pills. And when I'm overweight, it's drinking to get off pills. And it's just, he's just, he fought. He really struggled and battled. And with that, David Schwimmer was a huge, like, all of them were friends to him during that time, actually. And the whole cast of Friends is just iconic in their own right, and the way that every single person, including Matthew Perry, especially Matthew Perry, could have literally had a spinoff. They could have all had
Oh
their
my
own
God,
spin-off
my favorite
shows.
character by far.
And as an ensemble, they really all their astrological signs combine, and like the way that as a cast, they were so transparent with each other, and it was really important for them as an entire cast to be friends. That was something that they talk about later, that they really established, and that's why they were really transparent with what they were making, what they were all making, because in the beginning seasons, a lot of it was skewed and not even and not
I remember
fair.
that. Yeah.
Yep. And they like as a cast unified, and are a reason they all started getting paid a lot more equally and respectfully, and
That's a nice Scorpio ethos too.
appropriately. I always thought that was really cool about the Friends cast, and to learn that they all were really like got along and were friends. That's really like special. And with that, to move on, Heather, sorry, but
No.
David Schwimmer as a Scorpio, that just like, I don't know what I maybe thought. David Schwimmer carries the energy and has the performance. He's Ross on Friends, for those of you who don't know. And he is so physically funny. He is so theater, and he got his whole start. He was really big in Chicago theater, and and what's extra funny is that Marta Kaufman, one of the creators of Friends, the writers and creators of Friends basically had a whole nother show that David ended up auditioning for, and he ended up not getting that role, but they loved him so much, thought he was so talented. When that show eventually, I don't know if it ever aired or it was not successful, when they set out to make Friends, David Schwimmer was the very first member of Friends who was cast. It was literally, they knew immediately who was Ross, and it was David Schwimmer, and it was because he auditioned for a completely different role for him that he ended up being rejected for. So like, you gotta be memorable. That's huge. And for anyone who's not in like the auditioning and casting and acting world, that's huge.
That is
to make that kind of splash. And I always thought that was a really interesting trivia fact, that he was the very first one out of Friends who was cast. And he's so strong in it. Sorry, Heather,
I think no, this is kind of a new thought, but I think growing up and watching this with my mom, I know we used to play a game where we would try to say who we thought each of the characters' signs were. And I think that we said Ross is a Scorpio, which is always fun when the actor themselves has a sign that the character seems to also embody.
Well, and we talked about Scorpio, right? They're the relationship sign. And yes, I do.
His whole storyline on the show is like being obsessed with this woman.
Right. Or, like he's been in love with Rachel forever, but then he's going on his 4th or 5th marriage.
He's sabotaging it. And
Right. And then like also like he loves getting married is his thing.
Right.
It's like always like the joke, and is always sort
also
of
getting divorced.
Right. Like bending his back for like like he's very like Ross is always like kind of needy with these like relationships. It's kind of funny. But then he's also this very sensitive, loyal, sweet, has this very sweet underbelly. He's very smart, very funny. He's such a good brother, very loyal friend.
And father.
Like Ross has so many annoying moments in the show, but you love him because of his deep intricacies. He's then just David Schwimmer as a performer, so hilarious. But yeah, no, it is funny that you say that, because he kind of, Ross is absolutely a Scorpio to me as well. And then with that, I think it's really cool that David came from this, more theatrical background. What really put him on the map and made him a star was Friends, which sitcoms, even though obviously they are on film, are very theatrical in their own right. And I feel like all the performers in Friends like know how to be fucking theater performers. They're all very big. They're all very physical. The comedy, there's so much physical comedy on that show, as well as the writing, of course, and just dialogue. But then
really good point. I like that you're talking about this.
Yeah. Well, when you're in a sitcom, I remember when I was growing up, and it's so funny now because sitcoms aren't, what they were. I feel like when we were growing up,
it was the thing.
There was just so many, just so many sitcoms. And now because of like the way, TV is made, I think The Ranch, with Ashton Kutcher was one of like the first like sitcoms that came to streaming, which was awesome because you could cuss in it. It was like so fun to watch a sitcom that was using the F word. Like that was sick. And I would honestly love to see more studios like Netflix sitcoms where you can like, yeah, that can like kind of be R-rated, but you still, anyways, for anyone who doesn't know, sitcoms really are done in front of a live audience. And that's like where performers get their energy. Even though the laugh track, this is so funny. This was like Warner Brothers shit I had to know when I lived in LA.
Oh, right.
And worked on the lot. But even if something sounds like a laugh track, which a lot of times the reason they're using a laugh track is for timing in the show and to not fuck up audio and lines. It still means it's being done in front of a live audience. They'll just reserve laugh track to not, so that you could still hear lines when you need to, so that they don't run over on minutes. And so that, quite honestly, if there's one person who's got like an obnoxious snort in the front row and that's getting picked up, they can just turn that person's microphone off and then like cover it up with a regular. A lot of times it's just for timing and it's just for audio clarity.
Same shit from when I've done live audience work. Yeah, totally.
But sitcoms themselves are very theatrical, even though they're on TV. I think that it's really interesting that David comes from such a huge theater background. And then truly after Friends, like went back to Chicago to continue theater. Like,
yeah.
And it's just an amazing,
really cool.
It's just, David's really, and this is what I was going to say in his Scorpio, right? I don't think he's an LA boy. He's not like getting hounded by paparazzi. He's not in the tabloids for like
private
drama.
Scorpio,
right? A nice private Scorpio, but I think he like in his Scorpio way removed himself from LA, and like he really could have stopped working. All of them, quite literally, the royalties alone
residuals,
from that. Residuals. Sorry. From that show alone, my God, these people never have to get acting gigs again in their life. But yeah, I found it awesome that he like went back to Chicago to continue theater and like his love for that. I just really, I think Friends was just like this really perfect spark in the pan for all of them as performers. Matthew Perry especially, but yeah, David Schwimmer is such a heavy hitter on that show. And I just feel like it's his theatrical roots. And I'm sure that's why he was like devoted to it as a sitcom. It was probably very theater for him and still very artistic for him, you know? And that is kind of the beauty of sitcoms. You get to perform it in front of a live audience, but then you're also on TV. And that's like growing up, I was like, it's my dream to be on a sitcom because of like the idea of like, that's still theater, but then it's on TV.
Yeah,
right.
It is.
And,
yeah, that's cool.
It's a bummer we don't have them in the same way, but yes, Scorpio privacy. You never hear about David Schwimmer until the Friends reunion years later, and he confesses his long lost love of having been in love with Jennifer Aniston since like forever.
Oh,
so
shit.
I don't know if you watched this, Heather. This was kind of like huge. I remember in the moment watching it like, why is this is not headline
that is
news.
So Scorpio
because David has this whole thing where, or like David, it's not just David Schwimmer, but him and Jennifer Aniston basically admit to the whole Friends world and to like on this HBO Max special of a Friends reunion where they go back to the lot and they see they like reset up the set for them and everything. Jennifer and Jennifer and Aniston, Jennifer and David have this huge confession that like they like crushed on each other all during that time, but it was never like the right time. And that they were really happy they didn't get together because, you know, it might have really ruined Friends for them. But is that not so fucking Scorpio? This like deep down love. And then I think that it was like rumored that they like went on a couple dates after that. I don't know, but I thought that was so Scorpio energy too of
that
like
is unbelievable. The
David,
most.
you know,
yeah,
just
absolutely.
like fucking Ross and Rachel.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're so right. He is Ross,
mm-hmm.
and Ross is a Scorpio.
mm-hmm. Ross is a Scorpio.
Wow. But yeah, and then
the Gemini moon probably has a flair for the humor.
I was just about to say, Heather, sorry. I was like, and with that, I don't think I've even touched on his fucking. So we do not have David's rising. He is a Scorpio sun, as we know, and Gemini moon, just like you said. And I did think that the Gemini moon, the chameleon aspect of like being on an ensemble. David Schwimmer also talks about that's what he wanted. He wanted to be a part of an ensemble. And that's why it was really important to him that they all got paid the same. Like he was someone who I think was getting paid much more, and like either took a cut, but like risked his own, pay and like sort of position where he had it very cushy to fight in his Scorpio loyal way for his fellow castmates and like
That's
for the
really
morally correct,
cool.
like, yeah, that is because like, especially just men in Hollywood, a lot of times for again, for those of you
that,
to not be in that world, men usually do make more than women, which is a whole other conversation. Well, in a lot of fields, as we understand, but like, especially I think in Hollywood, we see that really grossly. And exactly, they're an ensemble cast, and David Schwimmer talks about that was so important to him. He never wanted to be a lead. He really wanted to be a part of an ensemble. And then I feel like that really bled through in the personal life as well. Like his money is where his mouth is type of thing.
Right.
Very Scorpio.
Yeah. I think this chart has integrity with there's a lot of Scorpio planets, and Sun conjunct Venus, which wants to be pleasant and lovely. And, that's like your sun getting a dose of Libra. And then Neptune is also in Scorpio, but then Saturn is in Pisces, just like us. And the moon is right on the cusp of Cancer. To be honest, he could be a Cancer moon. And then Saturn is an opposition to these Virgo. Yeah. So, and North Node in Taurus and these Virgo planets, he seems like a guy of integrity and loyalty. And
well, and again, he's a Scorpio, so we don't know much about him.
No, right. But like, I mean,
I do get, not to say Scorpio's cold. I feel like that's a negative thing that I'm not trying to say, but that Cancers strike me as such warmth. So many like Cancers really like exude, they're little crabs in the sun. And I would not be shocked if he was a Cancer rising. David Schwimmer just does give off that. He feels so warm. And he's one of the most famous people because of the show he was on, and was like, I'm gonna go back to Chicago and do theater. Like that's fucking so Scorpio.
Cool. That
and
is.
Cancer
that's so
combined.
Cool.
Like I kind of would be surprised if he's not, But I nothing but great things to say about David Schwimmer and his sign, Heather. I really just like, unfortunately I wish we did have his rising, but I would bet good money that he's a Cancer rising. That really,
I could see it.
That checks. And to know how many water placements he has kind of checks from what we do, the limited information we do know, right? David, we love you. Come on the pod. Matthew, we love you. Rest easy, our good friend. Everyone's posting thing that's like the one where we lost a friend. I'm like, y'all, I cannot log into an app right now. This is really
fucking hell.
I know, it's sad. It's sad. But with that, Heather, shall we move on to maybe some lighter, still in the Scorpio depths, but maybe some lighter.
She's so light and bright, but also
I know
deep
it is
and dark. And
it is. It's a fun,
very
contrast.
Layered individual, Miss Rae Jepsen, who I'm obsessed with. Oh my God, Rae Jepsen. I love her so much, and it caught me off guard because I didn't really love her during the Call Me Maybe, like when she first was huge.
Right.
But Alex Nightingale actually was the one who was like, Heather, you should listen to Emotions. And I think she was also like Emotion side B. And then I listened to it and I was like, holy fuck, this is everything. And it is so up my alley. And then I remember I was like listening to it all the time when I was doing background acting and all those on those drives to like new places, first moving out here in LA. And I had a whole conversation with a straight man PA on set who was also like Emotion side B, Rae Jepsen. It's all I'm listening to. And I was like, yes. But yeah, she is such a Scorpio, and it's her aesthetic, I feel like, does tend to be this like glossy, bright pop star. A lot of her hits are like very bubbly, bubblegum pop.
With like these deep undertones.
Yeah. Well, and then so her recent album, which is my favorite, called The Loneliest Time, which came out when I was in Norway and I was feeling extremely lonely, and it was during Scorpio season, and
Aw.
I just listened to that album and cried on repeat. And she says that she, like, there was a moment where she realized like pop music doesn't have to be superficial or all light and bright, like that it actually is a great art form to release big emotions.
Right.
And the loneliest time, I mean, first of all, I think she got super into astrology before she released that album, because she literally talks about being a Scorpio, and
Right.
the whole, all of it is so Scorpio. She has, she says, I got you now. I'm Scorpio. It's physical. It's natural. I'm spiritual. My animal. And she talks about like
By
Jupiter and the
animal.
black sky.
Yeah.
She like fucking knows it. The whole aesthetic of the album is like her looking at the moon, and she references astrology so much.
I love that.
Uh,
I love it when artists like, it feels like such a win.
I know. I get
Especially
so
when
much
they're
more
creating
excited.
art, like when an artist creates art around it, or even just mentioning it,
Mhm.
or like you can tell that like that's just a piece we're getting, but this is probably a spiritual being, and maybe all the luck they're receiving with their art is because they
Mhm.
embrace it. I don't know.
It's literally what I want to do with my life. I just
Yeah,
decided I want
it's extra
to make
exciting.
art that helps people understand astrology. Anyway, but
Please, and we're on our way.
we
Sorry, go ahead.
are.
Go
But
ahead.
yeah, I'm such a fan, and I love her last album. And also I think it's so fucking Scorpio of her to be this pop star who doesn't have to do this by any means, but she fucking writes, like, when she's making an album, she writes like 200 tracks. She
She's a
writes like
songwriter.
200,
Yeah,
but like you
that's
don't have to
insane.
make that many
Yeah,
songs, but
just
she
to
like
narrow it
wants it to
down.
be like the
Yeah,
best quality.
right.
And it's so cool that I think she's one of the only artists who like is more known for her B-sides than her, like, she just creates so much content that she's able to have a B-side for every single album. And now she's like the B-sides queen, and like it's more of her deep cuts, and like her last B-sides album that she released, like, holy shit. But
Very Charlie
yeah,
X,
it
where
is.
it feels like
They're very similar.
if you like
Mhm.
know, you know. And
Mhm.
but
They're
because
very
you're totally
similar.
right, Heather, you're the reason I got into Carly. And I think very similar to Charlie, I was like, you're talking about the boom clap sound of my heart,
Right? I
girl.
know people are
That's
like,
your idol.
"Carly."
And
I'm like,
then
"No, no, no."
right, we're not talking about Call Me Maybe, which is in retrospect a great
I
hit.
kind of
But
it's a good song, but
yeah,
yeah.
I totally, yes, it's those deep cuts. Sorry, go on, go on.
Yeah, everyone,
I'm just
I think I
excited.
said this like a year ago during Scorpio season, but everyone should listen to Ben's. I found it on AG Cook's
Yep.
playlist. It's so fucking good. Anyway, so so Carly is a Scorpio sun, Pisces moon, we think. We don't know. I don't think she's Aries moon though. I'm pretty sure
You're
she's
getting
Pisces.
Pisces.
I'm getting Pisces. I mean, she just had a line that said I'm spiritual. Come on.
Yeah. And I'm like, and I
And
want to talk about that. That's Pisces. Not
right.
that
No, you're
Aries can't be
right, right.
spiritual, but an Aries is like, lock that
Pisces.
shit down.
Totally, totally.
Pisces like, let's talk about it.
Yeah. But and oh my god, just I mean, this is the hardest placement in my chart that Carly also has, Sun conjunct Saturn, because like Saturn is the planet of restriction, a late bloomer needing to like master something. It's why the Saturn return is known as like you have to grow up and mature and take life seriously. So having the sun right next to Saturn in your natal chart is a challenging placement. And I do know that she got started from being on Canadian Idol, and she won third place. And she was
Forgot about
like,
that.
I know that the challenge is going to be like staying relevant after this. Like this was nothing, but like yeah. And then I feel like it was kind of a struggle for her internally to like carve a new path after Call Me Maybe was such a viral success.
Yeah, it was like so mainstream, even in a way that, you know, she had like no real control over. That's why there's so many people who are like, she's still making music. And I'm like, right, it's just not at the level of that, like, you know, just because it's
But
not at that level, like there's all these the depths, right?
but
The deep
similar to David Schwimmer, I think she like really has a sense of like integrity. Like
right.
she doesn't just write to
She's
make
not trying
bops.
to make
Yeah,
radio hits.
she really loves expressing herself through music. Yeah.
It's a need more than it is like a desire. And even bringing up the like staying relevant, it's like, to me, that's from a place of like, so that I can continue to like express myself through art, because otherwise I can't live. Like, that's so Scorpio, right?
Yes.
Or like, if I don't have the artistic moral value to it, I don't have anything, right?
Yes.
I kind of love that.
Yes. And it's a very clumped chart. I would think that maybe she has Pisces rising too. I would think that these, like, the majority of her planets would fall in the top half, because fame kind of just like came to her in a very like lucky way, and in a very sudden way. But yeah, it's that Sun conjunct Saturn makes her very disciplined, take it all very seriously. She's going to write 200 tracks for her albums, and she has Venus and Pluto and Scorpio too. Ooh, in a wide conjunction, which, oh my God, she talks so much about her trust issues and her baggage from her family. And her last album, she talks about finally being in therapy, and the therapist is like, soften up, like, why are you so tough all the time? And like, now she's finally in a relationship that she's like allowed herself to open her heart, and she seems super fucking happy. But
she really
is. Lots of Scorpio.
I always love the contrast too of like a poppy song, but with like a deeper, darker undertone.
It's my favorite thing. It's my favorite.
It's like a horror comedy, or you know what I mean? Like a dark comedy, which I love.
Bringing contrasting things. Yeah, it is the best.
To allow room for more depth. Oh, Carly, get your ass on the pod.
Please be my friend. Let's talk astrology.
Gorgeous. Call me maybe. Carly, we love her. She's a fun one.
She's so fun. Yeah. One thing I want to add, when I was like reading interviews, preparing for this, apparently, according to this interview, making the album, she says, involved, quote, a little bit of a rebirth back into myself, into feeling connected with my family again when she was making it.
You can't make this shit up.
Rebirth.
If you tried, folks.
Scorpio. Rebirth.
Like a phoenix from the ashes, Carly Rae Jepsen will rise. No, yeah. It's I feel like I just, even from last Scorpio season, Heather, like my understanding and appreciation of all the signs, because you know, with this podcast and in this last year, and listeners, we hope you do the same, right? Like, I just feel more connected, and that like this past year was the first time ever in my life that I was aware, obviously because we record once a week, of every sign we're in at the time, and just paying attention more to like energies. And obviously psychologically you can start doing that, and suddenly you're making the connects, right? But in terms of astrology as a whole and connecting with it deeper and deeper as a whole, it's so fun to have like one full year under the belt through every sign. And now that we're coming up on year 2, where I like paid attention, and now that it's like year 2 of doing this, it just like my appreciation, my understanding of every sign, but especially Scorpio. Like, I'm just so grateful to really feel like, to pay attention and understand the layers to this shit. Because signs are not what they are on the surface. Astrology isn't what it is on the surface.
Absolutely
Human beings aren't who they are on the surface, right? That's the whole beautiful,
everything
magical...
that matters is layered, like sedimentary rock.
I love it. It's Halloween. I love it. But yeah, no, it just, Scorpio has been such an extra fun side. I know we still have like 2 more episodes in it. We're not done by any means, but it's just been a very extra fun sign.
It is. It's so fun. The complex ones. It just
and just how different. Sorry, Heather.
Yeah, no, go on.
But just how different Scorpio season, with everything else going on in the sky, the way this Scorpio season is like hitting in a way that, not that it like wasn't hitting last year, but just how different and contrasting the energies from like even though we're in Scorpio season again, it's so different. And the way the moon cycle just is, and that the way that's opposite, the way they're, you know, like we were talking about with like the planets moving, the ones really associated with Taurus and Scorpio right now too.
Right.
There's so much else going on in the sky. No wonder it feels so different. The energy
Yeah,
is
that's another
obviously
thing. Yeah, there is so much complexity that you guys don't even that I don't even know. It's
right.
like it's so yeah. Not every Scorpio season is even the same because there's just so much dynamics.
How could they be?
Yeah.
How could any of those seasons be the same? And with that,
Yeah.
like the element we're in, right, and the themes that no, it's just before I get way too heady with it. Just a beautiful time. And I love that quote. Thank you for sharing that very Scorpio-ass quote from very Scorpio-ass Rae Jepsen. Beautiful. And with that, Heather, may I ask, what the heck's going on next? What's on the agenda coming up?
I think it's an exciting week. A lot of the astrologers that I take information from are saying that next week is going to be a little bit more dense and energy filled. But
why wouldn't it be?
I know, right? But I'm not in next week yet. I think this week is pretty fun. There's this, so we're obviously still, the sun is in Scorpio and Jupiter has been in Taurus this year. Jupiter is Sagittarius's planet. It's when you have anything having to do with Jupiter in astrology, it's a reason to get excited because it's the lucky planet. It expands. It's very optimistic. If you're going through a Jupiter transit, it's like, ooh, a new opening, or like luck fell into my lap. So the sun is exactly opposite Jupiter in Sun in Scorpio, Jupiter in Taurus on November 3rd, this Friday. And that is like a sense of fun and optimism, and you can party a little too hard. That's the only qualm with Jupiter, is you can take things a little bit too far. Rae Jepsen song, Too Much. Oh my God. I wish I could. I wish there was more time, but like, oh my God, the lyrics to that song. When I party, then I party too much. When I feel it, then I feel it too much. When I'm thinking, then I'm thinking too much. Now I'm drinking and I'm drinking too much. Jake was like, this song
undertones.
is you. Yeah.
This song is
I'm like, this is literally my anthem.
That song is
anyway.
me. No, yeah,
but
that's
it's
so
very
funny.
Jupiter and Taurus opposite Sun and Scorpio also. So that's Friday. And Saturday on November 4th, Mercury in Scorpio opposes Uranus and Taurus. So again, we have these like quick planets in Scorpio in interaction with these slow planets in Taurus. Uranus and Mercury could be like exciting news or like switch ups having to do with communication. It could be like kind of a Mercury retrograde type energy. But then there's also this very romantic energy happening with Neptune opposite Venus. And that's like, they're saying it's a good week to write poetry or to get into the more Piscean sort of depths, if you will. Creativity should be in full flow. And then at the end of the week, Saturn ends its retrograde, which is important for all of us going through our Saturn returns right now, because Saturn's been retrograding since, I want to say like May or June. And now it's going to start going forward again. So I think that the Saturn returns are going to be felt a little bit more viscerally in these next few months as we go into the new year, which makes sense because you're already thinking about like life goals and shit.
You're right. The ending of it is so fun. How different. I know I say this all the time, but I have to say it again.
Yeah, say it again.
Different the astrological like start and end to that calendar, to the astrological calendar, if I will, is kind of like, it seems like such a random time in our calendar, or it's like the skew is off a little bit, right? In terms of, again, for the listeners, Aries is is like the January of the astrological calendar, but Aries hits in late March, so it's like late March and mid-April that is Aries start. So that's like, but then as the year continues, it just always never ceases to fascinate me, and how connected, even though like the astrological new year and end year, very different from like our
Yeah.
our yearly calendar one, right?
Yeah.
But the themes we go through during our yearly calendar are so supported and in tune with where we're at on the astrological calendar.
Yeah.
And
The
you're so right.
Capricorn.
Yeah.
Ending it with Capricorn is so.
And then
Gotta
also
get your
starting
ducks
it
in.
with
Yeah.
Cap too, like in that same way. That's so our yearly calendar. That's like so societal's
totally constructed.
idea of
Yeah.
start. And it's just really interesting. And I love, because of how different the calendars are, I love how connected they feel. It's, like during the, like, yeah, it's just, they're completely different calendars, but like the energy we're going through during the year. And like you just said, yes, it's everyone. We know we're coming up to the end of a year. So you're thinking about the end of that year and like the start for your new year. That energy is like already in place due to what's going on in society. You cannot make this shit up. And you also can't deny that astrology came first, and a lot of our shit is based off of like this. It's just really interesting.
Astrology was before calendars, bitch.
Heather. Scorpio looking ass bitch. No, yeah, it's just I always love it when that happens because of how different those calendars are, but then how not different they are as it's all playing out. It really fascinates me.
It's
which is maybe why I have a podcast devoted to astrology. Wouldn't you think, Heather?
It makes life so much more beautiful. I think just adds another layer that
it's fun.
It is
it's fun. It's also just like fun.
Yeah, it is.
Who's hurting? Relax.
Literally no one.
I don't know who I'm yelling at.
I know. I'm feeling aggressive too.
I know. I'm like, the listeners are like, we're here because we're on your side.
Right.
We love you, listeners. We're just, we're in the Scorpio throes. But yeah, no, this is just what a beautiful rebirthing time we're in. I love this energy. I love these. I love these celebrity guests. Birth charts we did today. Both so fun. I love you, Heather.
I love you so much. This is always a treat.
Always, truly, folks. Listeners, we hope for you it's always a treat. A little trick or treat, if we will.
I was going to say
apologize. Yeah, we're recording on Halloween. When you hear this, it's going to be Thanksgiving time. But yeah, what an exciting, let it burn, folks. Let this shit burn and have some, like, have a beer with your inner demon. Why not? Have a beer with all of them. For those of you with multiple like me. Yeah, just a beautiful time.
Yep.
Happy Scorpio season, y'all. Keep it deep, keep it flowing, keep it meaningful out there, right? But keep it fun. Come on, let's keep it fun. Let's have a little fun. Infinite abundance.
Abundance.
Bye.
Bye.